guys, it's Lisa here, or Messy Stressy Mama if you follow me on social media. And I wanted to bring you guys a video about G-tube feeding and like the supplies, and then a little bit of detail about how to actually do or start a tube feeding, because you know, for anybody who is like me and is just starting on this journey, it can be daunting and complicated. So I just wanted to make this video to make things a little bit easier. Let's get started. Holly, she's been a G-tube baby now for a few weeks, and the boxes of supplies just keep coming. I feel like every single day we get at least 4 boxes of stuff, and it's super funny because some of the boxes will just have one thing in them. Like today I opened up a box and there was just a bunch of packing, and there was literally 1 syringe. But yeah, some other boxes are like bursting. They're so packed. So I don't really know who is in charge of like shipping this stuff, but yeah. Anyway, so like I said, I thought I'd go through the different supplies with you, and then into more detail about how the feeding happens and all of that. So the first piece of equipment is the IV pole. So this is like you see in hospitals, just the pole with the 2 kind of branches. It holds both bags that you'll need, that I'll get into later, and then it'll hold the pump will affix on there as well. So Holly, she's having to be fed during the day, and then she had to do some feedings at night at the beginning. So I actually think that I might try to see if there's an IV pole on Amazon for not that expensive, because carrying that IV pole up and down the stairs every day is the worst. But anyway, you'll get 1 IV pole for sure from the hospital before you leave. So that's the IV pole. And then you have the pump itself. So here is my pump that we got, this infinity pump. This is what will actually run the formula through the tubing, and this is a different one than the one that they use at the hospital. I don't know if they offer the same, like the same hospital, same brand pump as the hospital has for patients to go home with, but I'm not sure if Infinity is the only home brand. But anyway, this is the one that we got. Of course, there's your on-off button right there. So just you'll have to press and hold it for a few seconds, or else it won't listen to you. And then you have the prime button. So this is the button you'll press to prime the tubing before each feed. So you need to prime to make sure that if it's a first feed, new bag, new feed, you know, there's an old formula in there, but you want to make sure all the air is out of the tube, so you don't just push a bunch of air into your baby's tummy. So you'll have to I usually prime it until I see new formula coming out of the tube, and then I know it's good. Or if it's old formula, there's usually like you'll see like pockets of air where the old formula is, and then you can just follow the line of like constant new formula and just follow it all the way. But I'll get into more detail with that later. And then you have the run pause button. So this is the button that starts the feeds and that stops the feed when it's done. And I've noticed that if you set up the pump and then you prime it, and it always takes a while to prime. It takes forever, actually. I really wish that they had a faster way of doing that. But anyway, but the machine will beep at me because I'm taking too long and it just wants to run the feed. And so I'm like, stop rushing me. Everything in my life feels the need to rush me all the time, and I don't appreciate it. Anyway, so then you have the volume total button. So if you press this, it'll show you how much formula has gone through the tube so far, so how much formula baby's eaten so far. And then you have this rate dose button on the bottom. And the rate dose button is, it'll switch between rate and dose. So if you press it once for rate and then another time for dose, this is where you'll see what your settings are. So Holly, for instance, during the day, she has 4 feeds, and each feed is 105 milliliters of formula over an hour. So the rate would be 105 milliliters per hour, for 1 hour, and then the dose would be 105. So it's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. That's the pump. Okay, And so attached to the IV pole, you have the pump, and then you'll have 2 bags. So the first one is this feeding bag. And the feeding bag is, it'll usually be the same color as the pump. So the Infinity pump is this teal color. And so this feeding bag is this teal color too. So the feeding bag is where the formula goes. I don't want to open this one right now because it's pretty sterilized in this bag. But on the side of the feeding bag, it has the milliliter measurements, but it's actually way easier since this bag is like floppy and it moves around. It's not. I don't feel like the measurements would be accurate. So we've been using baby bottles to measure on like a flat surface how many milliliters, and then just pouring it into the bag. Although if you do that, make sure you pour slowly at first, because since the bag is floppy, a lot of times it'll like flatten at the top, and so if you pour formula, it'll just like the formula will come right back up at you. You'll probably get a bunch of these feeding bags in the shipments, and that's because these are only good for 24 hours. So for us, we just get a new one every morning for Holly's first feed. So she has a fresh new bag for her first feed of the day. Attached to this feeding bag is a long tube. And so the tube for the feeding bag actually connects to the second bag that we're going to talk about. So the second bag, this is the feral bag. It'll be a different color. This one's dark blue instead of the teal, but I think like different brands are different. At the hospital, actually, they had a different pump, but the feral bag was the same color as this one. It was a dark blue color, but the feeding bags are purple. Anyway, something I forgot to mention about the feeding bag is because you only change it every 24 hours, it's a good idea to rinse the bag out with warm water after every feed to make sure that there's no old formula at the bottom of the bag. Because there will still be formula in the tube. They'll have to prime out, but you don't want any old formula in the bag. So the feral bag is basically the waste bag. So I always laugh when I see a feral bag, because when I think feral, I think wild. So I'm just like, oh look, a feral bag appeared. The tube at the bottom of this bag, so technically at the top, because this bag hangs upside down. So this bag doesn't open. The feeding bag has an opening at the top so that you can put the formula in. But the feral bag is just for, like, the formula that gets rejected from Holly's tummy will, like, shoot back up into this feral bag. So, you don't really need an opening for it, so it just hangs upside down. And so there's a tube at the beginning of it that goes, and the tubes for the feral bag and the feeding bag connect. So in the middle of this feral bag tube, there is a Y connection, and then the end of the feeding bag tube, the end of it actually screws into that Y connection. So the feral bag, the end of the feral bag tube is what connects to the baby. So that it can, so that anything that comes out of Holly goes right up into the feral bag. The feral tube, the tubing on the feral bag also has 2 clamps. So there's one clamp that's white, and it's right under the bag. And then there's another smaller clamp that's a little bit closer to the middle of the tube. And so I guess I like to call one of them a roller, because the clamp that's underneath the bag is like you roll it up and down to close it and open it, and then the other clamp is just you snap it to close it. But I'll get more into clamps when we get into actually starting the feed. The feral bag will catch any formula that gets rejected from Holly's tummy for whatever reason. So it's not good if you start to see lots of formula going in there. That usually means that the baby is rejecting or not tolerating the feed. So that would be something to talk to their doctor about, whoever was the one who prescribed the feeding tube in the first place. So something else that you'll get in your supplies is this gravity bag, and this one is just for emergency use only. So this is used for, as the name suggests, it works for gravity. So say the power goes out, and so power's out, your pump won't work, right? So what do? How do you feed your kid? So this bag, you'll just hook it up to your baby, and then you just put the formula in there, and then gravity. There's a syringe in here too, so you can just push the formula through, or push water, I guess, to prime it as well. So that's the gravity bag. You'll get a bunch of syringes as well. So there's, you'll get these big 60 milliliter syringes that are used for flushing the tubing and flushing the baby's attachment. And then you'll get smaller ones like this, or like medicine, or to I don't know, for whatever you would need a small syringe for, medicine or water or what have you. Now we'll get to these tube attachments. So here's one of them. Here's a tube attachment. So there's different kinds of G-tubes that you can get. So we opted for the button because before we really knew what we were getting into, we figured button so much easier. You can just hide it under onesie and Holly won't pull the tube all the time. But actually, so like a week after the surgery, she needed to still have the attachment like taped under there with all the gauze. And I mean, as long as we tucked it into the onesie, she really didn't notice. But now, because she has a button, we actually have to attach the attachment tube to the button, which is it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable, and she hates it. So in hindsight, I wish that I kind of wish we could go back and not do the button, because it sounds great, but then in practice it's actually more convenient to just have the attachment always there, because once it's tucked in, it's out of sight, out of mind. But anyway, so I'll show you a little bit later in this video when we do a feed. I'll show you how to attach this to the button, but yeah, basically this is the attachment. So if your baby does have the button, you'll need to attach these to attach this to the feral tubing. That's how baby will get the formula or whatever they're eating through the tube. So these you need to switch out every week. Once a week, and after each feed you just unclamp it and then you run hot water through the tube, and that should be enough to clean it out. All right, so next up we will see what a feeding looks like, and I will walk you through it. Okay, so now we're ready to start the feeding. So we have the formula right here, and we have El Bebe right here. Hi, Holly. So I'm going to pour in, so her feeding is 105 milliliters over an hour. So to prime it, since you're priming it first, I like to put in a little bit extra. So I put in like 120 milliliters in here. So we'll pour this in here. We want to pour it slowly because this bag doesn't fill really fast, and so one time I had formula shoot back up into my face and it was not good, so slowly. Okay, I'm going to close this. Alrighty, okay, so we have the feral tube is here, and so here is the feeding tube. And so we want to uncap this feeding tube so we can connect it to the feral tube right here. And it's simple, there's just one place to connect it. It's just a Y connection. So you screw it in like this. All right, and then so this is the part that's gonna be attached to Holly. And then now we want to set up the feed. So we're gonna go here and turn it on. All right, it'll do its thing. Okay. And so here, since the pump remembers the settings for the last feeding, it says 105 milliliters per hour. So if I hit rate dose, it's the same number, which is what we want. And now I have to prime the tubing. So I have to make sure that all of the old formula is out so the new formula can come in. But before I can do that, I almost forgot. You have to put the tubing through the pump so that it pumps the formula through. So here, it's super simple. There's this loop here and it's really stretchy. So you just want to stretch it over around this part and then pull until the plastic snaps in. Well, here, yeah. There you go. There you go. And then you just close the this lid back. Okay, and so now we are ready to prime it. So we're going to take the end of this ferrule tube and uncap it. And then I usually, you want to put the end of the tube in like a disposable cup or like the bottle that you use to pour the formula in, because the old formula is going to drip out. So, and then we prime it. We want to press prime and hold it until, like, I don't know if you can see this. So this is the old formula that's here. You can see the break here. So the new formula that comes in will just be a constant stream of formula. So that's how you'll know it's the new stuff. So you want to wait until the tube is just like, I guess, all formula and there's no breaks in it anymore. So I'm going to hit prime and push down. This takes forever, but yeah, it takes a long time, and the machine likes to stop randomly. It always stops one time by itself because it's like, oh, I'm sick of priming. I mean, we are too, but we still need to keep going. So I'll need to press it again here in a minute. I like to watch the formula so that I know where it is, because the point is not to lose too much of the new formula. So you only want to let a few drops of the new formula fall out of the tube. So this is the annoying part, is just standing here and holding this button down and watching a formula go through a tube. Make sure that this little clamp is open so that it can go through. All right, so we're almost done. See, it stopped, so now thanks infinity, we're gonna keep priming. Okay. All right, so okay. Just a couple drops. There we go. Now it's primed. Okay, so we'll want to clamp it back up so that nothing falls out. Okay, so let's put the one thing I forgot was to get the attachment onto Holly's button. This is the hardest part because Holly hates this part, but okay. So we're going to cap this so that no formula comes out. It's clamped. All right. See the attachment. Okay. So here's the attachment, and so it has this little end here. And so this is what will go into the, there's a hole at the top of our button and it'll lock in, and then we'll connect the ferrule tube end to this one that's straight right here. This one is for medicine. We've never used it, but yeah, so this is the one that we'll attach it to. She really hates this part, so sorry for the crying that's about to ensue. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Baby girl. Okay, so there's going to be a little notch that will coincide with the little line that's right there. So we want to open this flap and here. Click it in. There we go, and then we follow the arrow to lock it. Okay, all right, there we go.
All done, Holly.
All done, Holly, it's okay. All right, and now we can go back over here. Oh, I know. The machine likes to rush me, and I don't appreciate it, so. All right, so now we uncap the end of the ferrule tube, and we unscrew the end of this straight one, like I said, this one right here. And then we'll screw these parts together, and then we need to unclamp her attachment so that the formula can go through, and unclamp this little clamp on the ferrule tube, and then we can hit run. Oh, and gotta make sure, thank you, honey, gotta make sure that we also unclamp the ferrule bag so that if she does reject any formula, it'll go up into here. And now it's running. So as you can tell, Holly is very excited about this. So yeah, it'll be, there we go. And now she's eating and we're feeding her tummy. And so in about an hour, we'll stop. And when we end feedings, I'll reclamp everything. And then here, let's make sure she doesn't fall. Okay. All right, and then when we're done, we'll just clamp it back up, and then we'll unhook this, and then and then we'll take off that attachment, and then we'll have to flush. But I can show you guys that later. All right. Okay. Well, now the feeding's done. Was that yummy in your tummy? Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to end it. So I'm going to turn off the machine. And then I'll get off the tray so we can better access the attachment. Alrighty, Halls. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that these are clamped. And this one, so that when we unhook, formula doesn't just spill out everywhere. So we unscrew this feeding tube onto here and we close this. And then we can just put this to the side because we're done using it. All right, and now comes the flush part. So after every feeding, you want to flush it just to make sure that all of the formula went through the tube, and just as she also gets some water for hydration, but also if there's any like stomach acids or anything that comes up, if you flush it, it'll go back in along with the water. So now we have a cup of filtered water. They tell you to use sterilized water, but I think that filtered should be okay for our purposes. I mean, we drink filtered water, right? Okay, and so our doctor, I think it depends on the patient, but for us it's 30 milliliters. So we're gonna put this big syringe in here and get 30 milliliters of water. Why is this so hard? Okay. All right. Okay, so now we have this. I feel like a doctor when I do this. All right, I think that's good. Right? Okay. All right, and now we will take the attachment. The cool thing about this is that the tip of this syringe screws into here perfectly. So we screw it in. And then we unclamp this one. And then we're going to slowly push the water through the tube. So you'll see it go in there. And so what we're aiming for here is we don't need it to be perfectly transparent, right? Because I mean, there's been stomach juice in there and formula, but we're just looking for, you know, a pretty clear, a translucent color in there. So before it was, you couldn't really see through it because there was formula, but with the flush, it's a nice translucent color. Molly, you're so tired. You're so tired. All right. And just so we don't push a bunch of air in there, I'm going to stop it a little bit before. There we go. And then clamp it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's done. Now you close this, and then we're all done. We can go to sleep. Yeah.